Today, we're going to talk about something uncomfortable, something controversial, evil. We all know the names, right? Hitler, Stalin, Mao. The list goes on. These people are synonymous with pain, suffering, and destruction. But here's the million-dollar question. Can we find something good about them? Can evil people, no matter how vile, have moments where we can say, okay, that's not terrible? Stay with me because we're going to explore what happens when we look past the evil and dig for the good in the worst of the worst. Disclaimer. This video does not justify or excuse the actions of history's most notorious figures. Instead, it explores a controversial question. Is it possible to find good in those we consider purely evil? The answers may challenge what you think you know. Number 10. Adolf Hitler is a name synonymous with evil. The mastermind behind the Holocaust, he orchestrated the deaths of millions and plunged the world into the horrors of World War II. But what if I told you that even this infamous dictator showed a glimmer of humanity? Hitler was known for his love of dogs, especially his German shepherd named Blondie, who was by his side during the darkest moments of his reign. In fact, many close to him recalled his tenderness toward animals. But that's not all. Hitler's oratory skills were mesmerizing. His speeches had the power to unite and ignite nations, building a fanatical following. His ability to manipulate and inspire so many came from a certain charm that few leaders in history ever possessed. This paradox of love for his dog juxtaposed with his atrocities begs the question: can there be good in someone so evil? His complexities may never fully be understood, but it's impossible to ignore that, under the surface of his horrifying legacy, there were human elements that shockingly reveal a man who wasn't entirely devoid of compassion. Number 9. Joseph Stalin, the ruthless leader of the Soviet Union, is notorious for his role in the purges, forced labor camps, and the man-made famine that killed millions. Yet, Stalin's story isn't entirely devoid of merit. His aggressive industrialization efforts helped transform the Soviet Union into a superpower, and his leadership in World War II played a pivotal role in defeating Nazi Germany. Despite his brutal regime, it's clear Stalin's vision reshaped the course of history. Some even argue that his harshness was a necessary evil to rapidly modernize Russia and defend it from external threats. Beyond the bloody purges, Stalin had a more personal side. He deeply cared about his daughter, Svetlana, and their relationship was often described as a rare moment of softness in his otherwise ironclad leadership. A man who once seemed like a cold, calculating monster, Stalin's actions left a lasting impact on his country. Can we truly separate the good Stalin from the evil Stalin? That's a question that may never be answered fully, but it's something worth considering as we dig deeper into the complexities of his reign. Number 8. Pol Pot, the leader of the Khmer Rouge, is responsible for one of the most horrific genocides in history, where an estimated 1.7 million Cambodians were killed under his rule. Yet, as monstrous as he was, Pol Pot had an intellectual side. He was once a passionate student and an advocate for rural development. His dream was to create an agrarian utopia, a self-sufficient society that didn't rely on the modern world. In the early years, his vision of a return to simpler times wasn't inherently evil. It's hard to imagine how this idealistic leader became the architect of such a terrifying regime. Pol Pot's education and early life show that there was, perhaps, a time when he sought progress in a way that could have benefited his people. Of course, his transition from idealist to tyrant remains one of history's greatest tragedies. The good intentions that once fueled his rise became twisted into a nightmare for Cambodia. But even in his madness, his early intellectual pursuits remind us that not all evil begins with malice. It often starts with misguided ideas. Number 7. Mao Zedong, the founding father of the People's Republic of China, was responsible for the deaths of millions during his reign. The Great Leap Forward and Cultural Revolution stand as stark reminders of the human cost of his policies. Yet, Mao's contributions to Chinese society cannot be denied. His vision of modernizing China helped lead the country out of feudalism and into the ranks of world powers. Despite his ruthlessness, Mao helped China build a stronger, more unified nation. The land reform program, which redistributed land from landlords to peasants, provided greater equality and paved the way for China's future growth. And while his campaigns led to untold suffering, Mao's focus on education, literacy, and healthcare significantly improved the lives of millions of Chinese citizens. Mao's role in reshaping China is one of the most defining in history, and while the means he used were deeply flawed, it's hard to ignore the eventual progress that stemmed from his reign. Can we find anything good in Mao? Perhaps his vision of China's future wasn't entirely devoid of value, despite the tragic consequences of his rule. Number 6. Idi Amin, the self-declared King of Scotland, ruled Uganda with terror, overseeing mass killings, human rights abuses, and political repression. His rule was marked by absurdity and cruelty, yet there was a strangely charismatic side to Amin that allowed him to rise to power. Amin's wit, humor, and larger-than-life personality captivated some, and he was known for his frequent jokes and antics. His role in supporting liberation movements across Africa and efforts to unite African nations, albeit for self-serving purposes, shows a side of him that sought to position Uganda as a leader in Pan-Africanism. While his brutal actions against his people can never be justified, Amin's early life as a soldier had a remarkable influence on his leadership. His rise through the ranks was in part due to his bravery and military expertise, though his subsequent dictatorship soon overshadowed these merits. Was there ever a good side to Amin? It's certainly hard to see beyond the violence, but his legacy is complicated, a mixture of cruelty and rare moments of humor and leadership that few could have predicted. Number 5. Benito Mussolini, the father of Italian fascism, is infamous for his authoritarian regime and alignment with Hitler during World War II. However, Mussolini's early career was not marked by the violence we associate with him today. As Italy's leader in the 1920s and 1930s, Mussolini sought to restore the Roman Empire's former glory and was praised for some of his early infrastructural achievements. He built railways, roads, and public works that helped modernize Italy and improve its economy. Despite his dictatorial rule, Mussolini promoted certain social policies like free education and healthcare, leaving a lasting impact on Italy's infrastructure. His shift to authoritarianism was a response to the chaos following World War I, but it doesn't erase the fact that some of his early contributions to Italy were essential for the country's development. Mussolini's legacy is complicated. The good intentions of his early years were eclipsed by his later collaboration with the Nazis, but the changes he brought to Italy's infrastructure can't be ignored. Number 4. Elizabeth Bathory, known as the Blood Countess, is one of history's most notorious female figures, allegedly responsible for torturing and killing hundreds of young girls. Yet, before her dark reputation, Bathory was known for her charity work. She was deeply involved in her community, donating to orphanages and supporting the local economy. Her influence as a noblewoman helped improve the lives of many. There's also the theory that her legacy was exaggerated. Some historians believe the accusations against her were politically motivated, fueled by jealousy and a desire to discredit a powerful woman. Whether the stories about her cruelty were true or not, the fact remains that her reputation as a philanthropist and local benefactor shows that even the darkest figures may have some redeeming qualities. What's true about Bathory remains debated, but her life shows that history can often be as murky as it is clear-cut. Number 3. Vlad the Impaler, the real-life inspiration for Dracula, is remembered for his terrifying methods of punishing his enemies, impaling them on spikes and committing unspeakable acts of cruelty. However, Vlad also earned a reputation as a defender of his people, particularly against the Ottoman Empire. His brutal tactics were often aimed at preserving the independence of his region, Wallachia, and protecting it from invaders. While his reign was drenched in blood, Vlad's commitment to defending his people is undeniable. He fought for his kingdom with a ferocity that struck fear into enemies and allies alike. His harsh methods were considered a form of justice in his eyes, and though his cruelty is a major part of his legacy, there was a sense of loyalty and dedication to his land. History may remember him for his terror, but his leadership in the face of foreign threats cannot be overlooked. Number 2. Genghis Khan, the man who built the largest contiguous empire in history, is often remembered for his violent conquests and the massacre of millions. Yet, behind his brutal reputation, Genghis Khan was a visionary leader. He unified the Mongol tribes and established a meritocratic system where the most capable people, regardless of their background, were promoted. This policy allowed him to create a highly efficient and loyal military force that conquered vast territories. Genghis Khan also promoted trade and cultural exchange along the Silk Road, connecting the East with the West. His conquests, though destructive, led to an unprecedented era of global trade, scientific exchange, and the spread of ideas. While Genghis Khan's methods were ruthless, his vision of uniting the world and fostering progress through conquest left a legacy that is still felt today. Number 1. Henry VIII is infamous for his 6 marriages, the execution of his wives, and his role in the English Reformation. But beyond his personal scandals, Henry made significant contributions to English culture and politics. His creation of the Church of England was a monumental decision that shaped the future of religious and political life in England. He was a patron of the arts, commissioning great works of literature, music, and architecture that helped define the Renaissance in England. Henry's reign saw the strengthening of the monarchy and the centralization of power, leading to a more unified and powerful England. His personal life may have been tumultuous, but his influence on English governance, the arts, and religious life cannot be ignored. In a sense, Henry VIII's legacy is a mixture of both destructive and constructive forces, but the cultural and political shifts he made during his reign are undeniable. Thank you for sticking around. This video might have been a heavy topic, but I think we've learned something crucial today. It's not easy to separate good from bad, and sometimes, the answers aren't what we expect. Let's continue to explore the untold histories of our world. If you're intrigued by these paradoxes, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join us for the next deep dive. Trust me, you won't want to miss it.